One God's plan.
Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted more than anyone? Someone you prayed with, laughed with, maybe even cried with, only to have them turn on you without warning? The kind of betrayal that doesn't just break your heart, it breaks something deeper, something sacred. You don't just lose them. You lose the version of you that believed people like that were safe. Betrayal is one of the oldest wounds in the Bible. Cain and Abel, Joseph and his brothers, Jesus and Judas. It's a pain that feels personal, targeted, like your soul got mugged while your eyes were closed in trust. It's not just what they did, it's that they were close enough to do it. That's the part that haunts you. Enemies can't betray you, only friends can. There was a woman, quiet, kind, faithful. She was the type that remembered everyone's birthday and prayed for people who didn't even like her. She believed in restoration, in grace, in second chances. She gave everything to a ministry team, her time, her money, her heart. And then it happened. A rumor, whispered just loud enough to stick. A decision made in a room she wasn't invited into. A public goodbye with no private conversation. Just like that, the door closed, and she was on the outside. Not because she sinned. Not because she failed. But because someone else needed her gone. She didn't know how to process it. She still doesn't. She stayed quiet. She forgave out loud. But her spirit still limps. And no one sees it. Because she still shows up to church. Still smiles at the door. Still claps during worship. But the betrayal rewired her. She's more guarded now. Not bitter, just cautious. Not broken, just careful. And maybe that's where you are. Maybe you've been hurt by a friend, a spouse, a pastor, a leader, someone you let close. And now, every time someone else tries to get near, you flinch. You smile, but you flinch. And you've learned how to wear that spiritual strength like a mask. But inside, you still bleed. That's the hard part. People say, just forgive. But forgiveness doesn't erase the memory. It doesn't untell the lie. It doesn't rewind the betrayal. Sometimes, it just makes you feel lonelier. Like you're the only one carrying the weight while they walk free. But the real question isn't whether you can forgive. It's whether you can heal. Because healing doesn't mean you forget. It means the wound no longer controls your life. But let's be honest, healing after betrayal is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Because you're not just healing from what they did, you're healing from what it did to you. The way it distorted your trust. The way it blurred your view of community. The way it made you question your own discernment. And the worst part? Sometimes they don't apologize. Sometimes they don't even notice. And you're left holding a pain they caused and never carried. So what do? When the people who were supposed to protect you became the source of your wound. When the ones who quoted scripture now avoid your name. When your loyalty became your liability. This is where the real story begins. Because healing from betrayal doesn't start with them, it starts with God. And what most people miss is that God doesn't just witness your betrayal. He understands it. Jesus was betrayed with a kiss. Sold for silver. Denied by his closest. Abandoned when he needed them most. He knows exactly what you felt. And he didn't just survive it, he overcame it. So you could too. But here's the catch. Healing won't always feel holy at first. It will feel like grief. It will feel like wrestling. It will feel like questioning everything you thought was safe. But don't confuse that with weakness. That's the process. That's the pain before the restoration. That's the soil where God plants something new. And right now, you're standing at a crossroads. One road says, shut down. Don't let anyone close again. Protect yourself. The other says, let God rebuild you, not around the betrayal, but beyond it. And that road, it's harder, it's longer, but it leads to freedom, to clarity, to a version of you that is not defined by what was done to you, but by what God is doing in you. Because healing is possible. Even here. Even after this. You've been trying to move on, haven't you? You keep telling yourself you're fine. That it's over. That what happened no longer matters. But deep down, something still clenches in your chest every time their name comes up. Or when a new person offers friendship. Or when you sit in a room where you used to feel safe, and now all you feel is tension. That's not weakness. That's a wound. And here's the hidden truth. Betrayal doesn't just hurt your emotions, it attacks your identity. It whispers lies you never invited. Lies like, you're disposable. You're not worth loyalty. You were only valuable until you became inconvenient. And the worst part? Those lies wear religious masks. They sound like discernment. They sound like wisdom. But they are slowly poisoning your ability to trust, to hope, to belong. You need to understand this clearly. Betrayal is a spiritual assault, not just a relational mistake. That's why it hurts so deeply. That's why it lingers. Because the enemy loves to use familiar faces to do his deepest work. Why? Because if he can wound you through someone you trusted in God's house, he can convince you to run from God's heart. But you don't have to live in that lie. You don't have to keep replaying what happened like a movie that never ends. You don't have to sit in a prison of silence, trying to convince yourself that survival is the same as healing. It's not. So what do? First, name the pain. Stop pretending it didn't hurt. Stop minimizing what you felt to make others more comfortable. Stop spiritualizing betrayal so much that you forget you're still human. Even Jesus wept. Even Jesus confronted. Even Jesus asked, "Why have you forsaken me?" If the Son of God can acknowledge anguish, so can you. Second, don't confuse exposure with healing. Just because it came to light doesn't mean your heart has been restored. You can talk about what happened and still be tormented by it. Real healing requires intimacy with God, not just conversation with people. Psalm 147 verse 3 says he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Not just once. Continuously. Tenderly. Third, stop carrying what wasn't yours. Betrayal often makes you think it was your fault. If I'd been better, quieter, less trusting, more discerning. But listen, Judas didn't betray Jesus because Jesus failed. He betrayed him because Judas' heart was never aligned. Don't let someone's sin become your identity. You were not the cause. You were the casualty. And there's a difference. Fourth, don't let your wound become your worldview. Yes, someone hurt you. Yes, they were close. But no, not everyone is like them. If the enemy can get you to lock your heart away, he doesn't need to attack you anymore. You'll do it for him. You'll call it boundaries, but it's really fear. You'll call it wisdom, but it's really isolation. Healing means learning to risk again. Wisely, slowly, but still openly. And here's the warning no one tells you. If you don't heal, you will betray yourself next. You'll start sabotaging your own peace. You'll withdraw from people sent to bless you. You'll mistrust God's direction because it reminds you of where you got hurt. That's how betrayal repeats itself, not always through others, but through the patterns we adopt to protect ourselves. So what's the way out? You let God into the places you don't even have words for. You stop praying polished prayers and start groaning honest ones. Romans 8 verse 26 says the Spirit intercedes with groanings too deep for words. That means even when you don't know what to say, God still knows what to heal. You forgive, not because they deserve it but because you do. You deserve to be free. And forgiveness is not saying it was okay. It's saying, I won't carry this anymore. It's releasing their grip on your future. It's refusing to let your heart stay in a room God already left. And then, this is crucial, you remember who your healer is. Isaiah 53 verse 5 says, by his wounds we are healed. That's not poetic. That's a promise. Every nail in his hands was for every stab in your back. Every stripe on his back was for every silence, every betrayal, every moment you were left bleeding alone. His wounds absorbed yours. That's the scandal of the cross. That's the power of grace. You're not too far gone. You're not too damaged. You're not disqualified because you're still in pain. You're just in process. And the fact that you feel anything at all, that means your heart is still alive. But here's the challenge. Will you trust God enough to let Him heal what people broke? Will you let Him speak louder than the silence of those who left? Will you allow Him to write a redemption story in a place the enemy tried to declare a tragedy? Because He will. He already is. And it starts when you say, God, I'm done pretending. Heal what I buried. Restore what I've hidden. Remind me who I was before they made me doubt it. And He will. Because your story isn't over where they left you. It's just beginning where God finds you. You might be wondering, how long will it take? How many mornings do I have to wake up still feeling broken before God finally makes me whole again? The answer isn't one you'll find on a calendar. Because healing is not an appointment, it's a journey. And the truth is, some scars remain not because you haven't healed, but because they've become sacred. A reminder of what God brought you through. A testimony inked into your soul. Don't look for closure in apologies that never come. Don't wait for those who hurt you to make it right before you start living again. Some betrayals don't get closure, they get resurrection. And that resurrection doesn't start with them. It starts with you. With a whisper of surrender. With a choice to believe that your future is not in the hands of the one who broke you, but in the hands of the one who bled for you. And if you still feel haunted by memories, if the moment plays back like it happened yesterday, you're not weak. You're human. Even Jesus, after His resurrection, still showed His scars. Why? Because they weren't signs of defeat, they were proof that death didn't win. Your scars are proof that the betrayal didn't end you. You're still here. Still breathing. Still His. But here's the deeper truth most won't say out loud. Sometimes, the person you need to forgive isn't just the betrayer, it's yourself. For not seeing the red flags. For trusting too quickly. For letting them in so deep. For not walking away sooner. But hear me, God never rebukes you for loving deeply. He doesn't shame you for believing the best. That's not foolishness, that's Christ-likeness. The enemy will try to use your kindness as evidence of your stupidity. But God sees it as evidence that your heart is still soft. And that's the kind of heart He can use. So no more punishing yourself. No more playing it over in your mind, trying to rewrite what's already done. That version of you, the one who got hurt, who trusted, who hoped, it didn't die in vain. It became a seed. And God is growing something out of it. But you have to participate. You have to step out of survival mode and into surrender. You have to stop letting bitterness whisper your prayers. You have to stop calling your silence strength, when really, it's just fear. The path to healing will always feel risky, because it requires you to believe again, to trust again, to open your heart again. So how do you know you're healing? When you can talk about it without weeping. When their name no longer controls your joy. When peace becomes your reflex, not pain. When you start praying for their salvation, not because they deserve it, but because you've been freed from needing revenge. That's the kind of healing only God can do. And it's happening. Even now. Don't rush it. Don't fake it. But don't delay it either. Invite God in. Not just into your worship, but into the aching corners of your memory. The scenes you avoid. The conversations you replay. The moments you still regret. Lay them bare. Lay them down. He is not afraid of your brokenness. In fact, Psalm 34 verse 18 says He is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. That's not symbolic. That's reality. Every time you cry and no one sees, He does. Every moment you hold back so others won't see you fall apart, He holds you tighter. You are not alone in this. And maybe, just maybe, your healing won't be quiet. Maybe it will become someone else's deliverance. Maybe the same story that nearly ruined you will become a doorway for others to walk through. That's how redemption works. That's what God does. He doesn't just repair, He repurposes. He takes the ashes and gives you beauty, Isaiah 61 verse 3. He takes the pain and births purpose. He takes betrayal and births ministry. So the final question is this: will you let Him? Not just as your comforter, but as your surgeon. Not just to soothe you, but to cut away what doesn't belong. That fear, that guilt, that identity shaped by someone else's sin. He's ready to remove it, to restore you, to rewrite the end of the story. Because this isn't your ending. It's your awakening. And the day you choose to heal fully is the day betrayal loses its power forever.